There's a rare kind of grace that comes from living with something that tries to take everything from you. Nicole Pedra knows that grace well. Diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, she's learned that gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a practice. A model, actress, and fierce advocate, Nicole has turned what could have been a closed door into an open invitation for others to find strength and vulnerability. Now, as one of the main cast members in Because I Can, she's sharing her story so others might find pieces of their own strength reflected within it. Because when gratitude becomes your lens, even the hardest days hold their own kind of beauty.
Thank you so much, Nicole Pedra, for joining me here in AwareNow to share this space and to share this story. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Let's get started this way. You have spoken before, Nicole, about how MS changed what you prioritize. But how has it changed, new question, how you love? The way you show up for others, and even the way you show up for yourself.
Oh, this is a great one. So, prioritizing for myself isn't as easy as how I show love for other people. I've had this disease for 27 years now. I kind of just have learned to adapt so I can still do the things I want and whatnot. Especially within the last few years, I really tried to prioritize my own health, to stop feeling like I need to please people, to stop worrying about if it makes them feel uncomfortable. But the way I love people is I realize that every little thing means a lot to people. I know some of my friends really don't like the canceling thing. And I get that. So when I commit to a plan with them, I will push myself to go do it, right? I cannot cancel this event. Or sometimes I can once in a while, but I just have certain friends who showing up and being willing to help makes them feel loved, right? Makes them feel like I do care, you do matter. It's also given me the ability to really listen to people. I will talk to a 90-year-old man who's going to talk super slow, can't really follow his own train of thought, or a kid, right? Toddlers are going to take forever to get what they want out of their mouth. And for me, all the quiet time, all the nuance, all the attempting to get there, you learn a lot from at the same time. So I just love listening and really kind of picking up on what people are needing.
And that is perhaps the most beautiful and best way to love, to listen. So let's take a look back at the version of yourself before MS. So as a youngster being diagnosed at 10, we're talking about when you were just a kiddo, what did you see in her eyes that you don't see now? I know.
That I am still worthy. In 1998, there wasn't much known about it. Mental health wasn't being widely recognized and accepted. And my mom was told that I can't tell anyone because you don't want to label a kid with MS because people, are ignorant. They don't understand a lot. It's invisible, and I wouldn't be able to get a job if I told people I had MS and I was labeled as that. So that instinctually puts a bad narrative in your mind that there's something wrong with you and you have to be ashamed of this. And that was really tough. I hated myself for a long time. I kind of had this very flippant attitude about it because I came from the place of oh, no one's going to want to be with me. So let me do whatever the heck I want. Right. I just kind of fought everything. And when you're 10 years old, all you want to be is your peers. That's it. You want to feel included. I didn't want to be the weird sick girl. Come on, there were people we knew in school who like sometimes got teased and stuff, and although they don't deserve to be teased, you have enough sense to be like, I don't want to put myself in that position. And kids don't know stuff. Like when I got hospitalized and I took oral steroids for an entire summer, I was on Solumedrol several times because with the onset of pediatric MS, it actually is a lot different than adult MS onset. Pediatric, you really get like hit by a bus because so it tends to be it's multifocal progression and you get hit with a lot of different symptoms at once, and they're usually like more severe. As a child, because of your immune system and you're growing, you also are hospitalized more. You have more flare-ups, right? And luckily, because of neuroplasticity and being so young, we do bounce back pretty well. But like the whole thing of going in and out of the doctors, people saw that I was gaining weight. Fourth grade, they knew that I wasn't in class for like a week and a half. Everyone draws the cards and everything, but you're still the odd one out. And so I remember like losing a lot of friends in middle school specifically and being like kicked out of like, this is stupid. I'm like, fourth grade, wow. Or being like excluded from things where you kind of don't know why people, they're like, oh, I was supposed to do a talent show dance with these people. But like, I just got kicked out of it. Like they don't want me in it anymore because I'm like now like this dramatically more, I gained a ton of weight, had a super moon shaped face, and people don't like necessarily associating or hanging out with people that don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And no kid knows what MS is.
Right. Not until
and the only people I saw who had it were my friends' parents. And I'm like, I knew maybe one or two, and I was like, okay, I'm a kid. Why am I having this thing that these parents are having?
Yeah. It's a lot I can see when you would look back at her eyes. Very different eyes now. So flip side to that, what do you see now that she never could have imagined? What do you see now when you look at your own eyes in the mirror?
That this disease could have brought out a path for me, that this situation could have brought something that has more purpose and that means more to me than anything else, right? I never thought I would do anything in this realm. Like, mine was like, I don't want anyone knowing. I don't want anyone labeling me. I look normal. I'm a fun girl. Like, I know how to hide things and adjust so, a wobbly leg isn't noticeable. It's so funny when people, like, will say, oh, you look great and stuff. And I know I'm wobbling all the time, and they don't recognize that. But when I wobble in a video I make online, people say, oh, I saw your wobble unloading the dishwasher. They're like, I can so relate. I had to go back and watch to see what they were talking about. And they saw it. But any normal person's not going to really recognize that.
Right. For sure. Let's switch gears a moment. Let's fast forward back in time to now to gratitude, the fact that it often shows up in disguise. Can you share a moment recently, perhaps, when you were frustrated or afraid and later realized that that was actually a gift?
That's a hard one. I mean, I think my diagnosis as a whole has a silver lining. I believe that there's so much. I actually put this on my story the other day. I said, if you could get rid of your chronic illness, you go back to before, right at the point you were diagnosed. You just cancel all those years from the diagnosis point. But you don't get any of that knowledge from that. Everything after diagnosis, who you meet, relationships, what you learn about yourself, growth, is no more. Would you give up being sick, or would you still persevere?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's nothing as valuable as people going through a challenge and having to overcome it. There's only one way, and that's through.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So the diagnosis in itself, it's a blessing in disguise, but you got to be able to see it, which now
I can.
Yeah, now we can.
Even the funny thing is, I went to school for public health. I had no plan on being in even the public health world. I wanted to go into pharmaceutical sales, and I thought like I was going about a roundabout way. And I remember teaching refugees about health literacy, about how they could understand what's going on in the doctor's office, that you should always bring a second person with you, that you should take notes, just these things about hygiene that they don't know, that's second nature to us. But for refugees coming from, different countries and different part of the world, no one's explaining this stuff to them. They don't know how it's supposed to go. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting that it took me full circle now, right. And that healthcare and accessibility and awareness is something that I really preach about. And I just want people to feel like they have the tools to be empowered and to be confident in the decisions they're making. Not even the decisions, but confident that you will be able to handle what comes at you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I felt a little bit of a decline lately. Yeah. Sent my neurologist, huge novel of like, these are my symptoms, this is going on. I was asked him, I said, because kids have more lesions, but their neuroplasticity makes them bounce back more, does that mean when you age that your neuroplasticity is like, and I'm just waiting for like a full-fledged 60 lesion thing to happen, right? And I do want to get his honest answer, but at some point I was like, look, I knew there'd be a shift at some point where I actually feel like I'm declining to a certain extent. Things just become more frustrating. And I was like thinking, I was like, oh God, please, like, don't let this happen. But then I sat there and I was like, you know what? I can't control if it happens. But what I can control is how I deal with a situation.
Yeah.
And I have enough confidence to say, no matter what they're going to throw at me, I can get through. I already got through the worst parts of my life. This is just, this is a piece of cake.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that you bring up that point, the fact that you can't control this. But what you can control is how you respond to it. And that's yours. No one can touch that. And just watching the way that you do respond to it. So let's talk a moment. This documentary that you and I are both part of, this Because I Can, you're not just sharing your own story. You're helping to tell a collective one. What have you learned about how your story, Nicole, can spark courage in others to tell their own?
Living with this condition for so long gives people hope that there's someone who has already paved the path for them, right? I would have been so happy to see anyone diagnosed at 14, 15, 11, anything, and to see that, wait, they were diagnosed at 11 and they're 40? They lasted that long? Being a kid, my dad, bless his heart, said once, in the later years, well, I didn't know if you were going to be in a wheelchair by the time you were 16. Like, that's what MS was. MS was disability. And again, MS progresses so much differently in adults than it does in kids. Yeah. So I might bounce back more and stuff, but just kind of what was the common knowledge was like, you're going to be in a wheelchair. And it doesn't matter you're a kid, it's coming in 20 years.
Yeah.
I forget part of the question.
Oh, it was just about how your story empowers other people to tell their own story, right?
And I think it gives people permission. People wanted to feel like I don't care if I have this. I'm going to speak up about it because other people are struggling. And that is empowering in itself. And the only way we can change the culture, specifically around women's health, is to advocate for ourselves. Because when we advocate, we're not just changing the culture around women's health, but we're actually making changes. And together, that's how we can make like a lasting change.
Yeah, 100%. So, and to your point, it's like that's where sharing is caring, right? Share your story. And
well, I think the whole mental health thing too. So many kids are embarrassed of like, oh, I'm sad, I'm depressed. And you saw those great commercials where, kids got a shark on his arm and someone's like, oh man, what's up? Like, and he's like, oh, it's just been really hard and down lately. And his friend totally normalizes it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think those are the things we need to do. We need to be more conscious of what we're saying to people too.
Yeah.
Right? Like what the helpful things are when he was like, I totally understand. Like, what can I do to help? Instead of saying everyone's like that.
Yeah.
Like, don't be such a baby.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, I love how you just like the nuance of what you even just said is like, what can I do to help? Not can I help? What can I do to help? That's a whole different question.
Can I do anything to help you? Can I do anything to make this easier?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go get groceries for you? You shouldn't feel bad about how much you're getting done today. You have a whole nother slew of things to deal with. Just things that are very validating and encouraging that show that you're aware of the struggles and the hardship of living with something like this.
Yeah. One more question for you today would be, if gratitude was a person. Hello, gratitude. How are you? If gratitude was a person sitting right across from you right now, what would you say to her? What would you say to Miss Gratitude?
I would say, thanks for making my middle school and teenage years so miserable, because it taught me how to overcome a lot. I was a really rebellious teenager. I didn't live at home for 7 months when I was a senior. I was really impulsive, super angry. I, went a little off skew. I talked back a lot. And my biggest thing was I just felt like no one understood me. And honestly, I think that adversity breeds character. And so sounds crazy, I'm grateful for having to go through that when I did, because it only made me, I feel like, a more caring and understanding adult.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the best way for me to give it to other people. Sometimes it's so hard to understand and relate to people if you haven't dealt with something really tough in your life too.
Right. I mean, it's a way to connect, to find our way back to each other. Yeah.
So gratitude. Thanks for teaching me in the school of hard knock lives. Hard to knock lives. But you know what I mean.
Totally get you. Nicole, thank you for sharing this chapter of your story and a little bit more about yourself. Thank you for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Lovely to chat as always.